Ever since I was young, I knew the world didn't welcome me. But despite everything, I believe there will come a time when I can help someone. I hope for that. One day, Kori was in trouble, pleading with some men to leave her alone. They kept insisting, not listening to her. Yuya, though nervous, decided to step in and told them that Kori didn't like what they were doing. The men mocked him and even tried to hurt him. Despite his fear, Yuya remembered his grandpa's words about kindness and courage. He knew he couldn't ignore someone in need, even if it meant facing danger himself. Ever since he was very young, Yuya knew that the world didn't welcome him. From constant bullying at school to harsh treatment at home, it always felt like he didn't belong. Kids at school called him fatso and ugly, making every day a challenge. His own family wasn't much better. His parents were strict, always telling him to stay out of their way, and his younger siblings never missed a chance to remind him that he was different. They were attractive and confident, while Yuya felt invisible and worthless. But through all of this, there was one person who believed in him, his grandpa. Grandpa was the only one who treated him with kindness. He would tell Yuya that no matter how tough things got, he should never lose his kindness. He believed that helping others, even in small ways, would eventually bring happiness to his life. He would say, "Yuya, don't let the world beat you down. Stay strong, be kind, and good things will come." Those words were his lifeline, especially after Grandpa passed away. When he died, Yuya inherited his house and belongings. His parents tried to take everything from him, but Grandpa had made sure they couldn't. So, they gave up and cut all ties with him, leaving him alone. Life continued to be tough. At his graduation, his classmates mocked him, even writing cruel things in his yearbook. He lost his part-time job when he was late one day, and his manager, who had already hired someone else, fired him on the spot. Everything seemed pointless. He started to wonder if there was any purpose to his efforts, or if he even had a future. One day, while wandering around his grandpa's house, Yuya stumbled upon a hidden room filled with strange items from his travels. Among these items was a mysterious door. Yuya was amazed at how well everything was working. The door to another world was even more powerful than he had imagined. It felt just like a video game, where objects could be turned into money. He noticed that only people he allowed could use the door, and it would appear whenever he wanted. Curious, he checked his stats, which were all at 1. He found the idea of adding bonus points to his stats exciting, especially since he got extra points for being an otherworlder and a first-time traveler. Exploring his grandpa's house, he found incredible weapons like the Omni Sword and Death Scythe, all marked with his name. Yuya realized that everything inside the fence was his to explore. He quickly learned skills like swordsmanship, and he wondered if it was because he was an otherworlder. Then monster appear near his house and tries to attack the house, but the barrier protects from the outside attack. And then Yuya tries to test his martial arts skill and weapon, then he throw the spear to the monster and kill him. Yuya shocked he killed the monster with one-shot spear. The HUD displayed his growing stats and titles, showing his progress. He tried the asset conversion, turning items like the Great Fong of the blood-stained ogre into money. In no time, he had 1,500,000 yen. The money felt real, yet it was made from other world items. It seemed perfect, like the world had finally given him a chance. At night, Yuya's body started changing, and by morning, he noticed he looked different. Since his mirror was broken and he never liked looking at himself, he didn't pay much attention to his appearance. He saw that his clothes were not right and found some new ones in the house. The royal silk pants and shirt fit him perfectly and stayed clean. He also noticed he was a bit taller than before. Yuya spent some time planting and watering his garden. As he explored, Yuya was amazed at how his life had changed. The world that once ignored him now offered many new opportunities, and he wondered what else this new reality might bring. Suddenly, a hell slime monster appeared in his garden. Yuya defeated it easily with a single strike from his spear and got a rare necklace. He wore the necklace, which increased his level, and exchanged a magic stone for money. He bought a new school uniform and cooked curry using vegetables from his garden. For the first time, he felt truly happy and free. Later, a goblin elite attacked his garden. Yuya used his powerful one-shot technique with his spear to defeat it. This technique was so strong that it easily defeated every monster he faced. He stored the items, but didn't level up because the monster was too weak. Yuya worried that if he returned to his old world, the bullies would start tormenting him again. The next morning, when he went to school, everyone stared at him, thinking he was a model. His younger brother and sister, who used to bully him, were shocked by his new look. They thought he was a transfer student because he looked so different. In class, when Yuya sat down, the bullies from before came over and asked if he was a new student. Yuya introduced himself as the same old Yuya, but they couldn't believe how much he had changed. They were stunned to see that the good-looking person in front of them was the same Yuya they once mocked. Later, Yuya checked himself in a mirror and was astonished by how different he looked. In the evening, his younger brother bullied him again, asking how he had suddenly changed. Despite Yuya's attempts to explain, his siblings continued to taunt him, calling him a useless older brother with no future. Just then, a girl named Kori gently asked if he was truly Yuya Tenju. Kori walked up to Yuya and recognized him as Yuya Tenju. She noticed he looked thinner and mentioned an incident at the convenience store where some men surrounded her. At first, Yuya was confused, but then he remembered what had happened. Kori explained that she wanted to thank him for helping her, even though it might seem rude to investigate him. Kori then surprised Yuya by inviting him to join Osei Academy, a school he knew was highly prestigious. She introduced herself as a member of the student council and shared that her father, the chairman of the academy's board, wanted Yuya to attend because of his bravery. Yuya, feeling unworthy and unsure of his academic skills, hesitated. But Yuta and Sora, who were with them, saw the chance and jokingly asked if they could join the academy instead, bragging about their own potential. Kori firmly declined, saying she wouldn't accept anyone who insulted Yuya. Kori reassured Yuya that the academy values character more than academic achievements, making his enrollment possible. The butler suggested showing Yuya around the school instead of discussing it further. He offered to inform Yuya's current school if he needed to leave early. Kori encouraged Yuya to come along, and as they left, Yuta and Sora were upset. As Yuya thought about the situation, he considered how Osei Academy seemed like a world beyond his reach, something he had always believed until now. Later, in the chairman's office, Tsukasa Hoju thanked Yuya for saving his daughter and welcomed him to the academy. Yuya felt overwhelmed and grateful. At first, Yuya was reluctant to accept Kori's invitation to Osei Academy, downplaying his actions as nothing special. Kori reassured him that, unlike others who ignored the situation, he was the only one who stepped in to help her. She emphasized that such bravery was rare and praiseworthy. Tsukasa, the chairman, encouraged Yuya to be proud of what he did, saying that the school values character highly. Tsukasa then directly invited Yuya to join the academy and offered to cover his tuition as a thank you for saving his daughter. Yuya still had doubts, feeling unworthy of attending a school known for its elite students. Tsukasa explained that being a genius isn't just about talent, but finding the right path quickly. He assured Yuya that hard work leads to success and that everyone's abilities grow with effort and experience. Tsukasa invited Yuya to spend a day at the school, suggesting it would be a valuable experience. As Yuya was introduced to Ms. Sawada, a respected teacher, she encouraged him to join her class. Though he was nervous, Tsukasa reassured him that Ms. Sawada's classes were both approachable and popular with students. Inside the classroom, Yuya felt anxious about fitting in with such capable students. But as Ms. Sawada encouraged him to join, Yuya reminded himself that it couldn't be worse than what he had already faced. Yuya Tenju introduced himself, saying, "I'm Yuya Tenju. I'll be joining your class for a trial enrollment at this school. Thank you for having me." Inside, he was anxious, wondering why no one was reacting. He even questioned if it was okay for him to cry or if he could just leave. Meanwhile, several students reacted internally to Yuya's introduction. Ms. Sawada then broke the silence, telling everyone to stop staring and instructed Yuya to sit by the window at the back of the classroom. She started the lesson and told Yuya to ask Hayadu to share her textbook with him. Nervously, Yuya introduced himself to Yukine, wondering if she disliked him. At the same time, Kori was hoping that Yuya was getting along well with everyone. The lesson began on pure substances and mixtures, with Ms. Sawada explaining that a pure substance is made up of only one element. She then invited students to share their knowledge. Yuya noticed that the lessons were similar to what he was used to, but the students here were much more proactive and engaged than he had experienced before. Soon, Yuya found himself bombarded with questions from various students. Ryu noticed that Yuya seemed overwhelmed and suggested everyone calm down. Apologies were quickly made, and Ryu reassured Yuya that everyone was just curious about him. Ryu introduced himself and asked if he could call Yuya by his first name. Yuya agreed, though he found Ryu's cheerful personality a bit overwhelming. Ryu brushed it off and invited Yuya to join him for lunch in the cafeteria. Yuya was surprised but happily accepted the offer. When they arrived at the cafeteria, Yuya was amazed by the variety on the menu. Ryu confirmed it and mentioned that the daily special was even free. Yuya felt like he was in paradise. As they looked for a place to sit, Shingo noticed them and offered a seat, introducing himself and greeting Yuya. Ryu mentioned that he watched Super Heavy Mecha Lord Gadrobo and loved it, with Shingo agreeing and suggesting Yuya ask him for more recommendations. Yuya felt a bit self-conscious, thinking people were staring at him because of his different uniform. Ryu reassured him that it was his face they were looking at. Shingo then asked if Yuya was in any clubs, and Yuya said no, before asking about Ryu and Shingo's activities. Ryu said he was in the Going Home Club. Yuya was surprised when he learned that Ryu was good at every sport, which led many clubs to invite him. However, Ryu ended up in the Going Home Club because he couldn't decide on one sport to commit to. Ryu explained that he enjoys taking on challenges and having fun. Shingo revealed that he was in the game club and was excited to show Yuya the latest game they had. Ryu invited Yuya to join them in playing, and they all agreed to have fun together. Later, Tsukasa asked Yuya what he thought of Osei Academy. Yuya found it incredible, noting that the lessons were easy to understand, the facilities were excellent, and the students were friendly, treating him as an equal. Tsukasa encouraged Yuya to attend their school, reassuring him of his worth. Yuya felt grateful and expressed his desire for continued guidance. Afterward, Yuya and Kori talked about the possibility of Yuya attending the school. Kori invited Yuya to explore the shops around the area after school. She mentioned that some of the shops were featured on TV. Kori admitted that she didn't have many chances to hang out with friends because of her family situation, but was excited about the opportunity to visit the shops with Yuya. Yuya was a bit surprised at first, but quickly calmed down and suggested something he was excited for Kori to try. Kori, knowing how tasty the place's treats were, happily agreed. Yuya felt relieved, glad that he had brought special items from another world to make their time together even better. As they enjoyed their treats, Kori smiled and said how much she loved sweet things. Yuya wanted to try everything on the menu, but also didn't want to overeat and gain back the weight he had lost. Curious, he asked Kori how she recognized him even though he looked so different now. Kori explained that she recognized his eyes. They were still the same honest and kind eyes she knew, even though he had slimmed down. Yuya was touched by her words and wondered if something was on his face. Kori then playfully mentioned that it was surprising he still called her Hoja-san and invited him to call her Kori instead. Yuya hesitated but finally agreed. Kori offered him a bite of her treat, saying that sharing would help them try everything on the menu together. After some initial awkwardness, they both relaxed and enjoyed their food, sharing a light moment. Kori apologized for her earlier reaction, explaining that she was just happy to be called by her first name. Yuya also apologized and suggested they move on without any hard feelings. From a distance, two girls noticed their interaction and thought it was really cute. Meanwhile, Yuya reflected on how he had returned to the other world after his trial enrollment at Osei Academy. Yuya felt both nervous and determined. He knew that once his enrollment was finalized, he might get really busy again. While walking in his garden, he encountered a hell slime monster. Even though he was scared, he defeated it with one swing of his sword. Checking his stats, he saw he was at level 235, but noticed he was leveling up more slowly now. Realizing he needed tougher challenges, he decided to explore beyond his home. As he stepped outside, he heard a human scream and rushed toward the sound. He was shocked to find a dead body. Suddenly, a powerful enemy appeared, a goblin general with strong stats. Even though Yuya couldn't match the goblin's strength or speed, he knew he had special abilities that could help him win. Determined, he fought bravely and used his unique powers to defeat the goblin general. After the fight, Yuya checked on a girl he had seen nearby. Her guards arrived soon after and found her asleep under a tree. Using his invincibility skill, Yuya watched from a distance as the guards woke her up. At home, Yuya was worried about a woman he cared about, but felt better knowing people had come to help her. He tried not to stress too much. As he looked at his shirt, which he washed daily and had special features to keep clean, he worried that wearing the same clothes every day might look odd. With a bit of money now, he thought it might be time to buy some new clothes. Walking through the busy shopping mall, Yuya felt uneasy as people stared at him. Some women even whispered how cool he looked, but he wanted to finish his shopping quickly and go home. Meanwhile, Hikaru was struggling with a photo shoot. The male model, Sho, was late again, which frustrated Hikaru. Even though the manager apologized, Hikaru decided to find a replacement in the mall. Yuya got lost among the many stores and felt confused. A woman approached him, asking if he had some free time. Yuya was worried it might be a sales pitch, but he was relieved when she offered to help him shop for clothes. He politely declined, saying he had other plans. Hikaru and his assistant were trying hard to find a new model. Hikaru reminded his assistant of their previous success with amateur street corner snapshots. He joked about the assistant's hesitation, who quickly backed down. Meanwhile, Yuya was still thinking about his earlier encounter with the women. Nearby, some women whispered about a mysterious man who seemed almost godlike. Hikaru suddenly saw Yuya and excitedly declared that he had found the perfect model. Yuya, confused, was swept into Hikaru's enthusiasm. Hikaru took Yuya for a photo shoot, directing him to smile and pose. But Yuya struggled to keep up with the fast instructions and felt overwhelmed. People in the mall watched them as they worked. Mio noticed Yuya's discomfort and gently reassured him, recognizing it was his first time and that he was doing well. Yuya appreciated the encouragement, but was still nervous. As the shoot went on, he admired Mio's professionalism and tried to stay focused. Hikaru, always pushing for more, had Mio link arms with Yuya, which surprised him and made him panic a little. He tried to stay calm. Elsewhere, Lexia was determined to find the mysterious man who had once saved her, despite Owen's warnings that the forest where they met was dangerous. Her determination was fueled by the memory of the enigmatic figure. Owen urged everyone to stay calm after a dangerous situation, and Lexia promised that they would all be safe with her. Owen, still worried, wondered about the wild side someone had taken on. Meanwhile, Mio's manager approached Yuya with a smile, offering him a coffee as a thank you for his help. Yuya accepted it gratefully. Mio, looking a bit regretful, apologized for dragging Yuya into the situation and asked if he was feeling tired. She handed him a towel and told him to use it and not be so nervous. Yuya hesitated, realizing the towel wasn't his. But he reflected on his tough day and admired how easily Mio handled modeling. Mio admitted she was used to it now, but had made many mistakes at first and faced criticism. Yuya shared how disconnected he felt from the fashion world and how it seemed distant and glamorous, but he recognized the hard work behind it. Yuya was curious about why Mio started modeling. Mio explained that she wanted to be noticed because her parents were always busy. She found joy in making people happy through her work and hoped to inspire others to take an interest in fashion. Mio encouraged Yuya to enjoy the process and take his time. Yuya wondered if he could succeed, and Mio expressed confidence in his abilities. As Hikaru praised Yuya's progress, the scene took a dramatic turn when Sho arrived, instantly capturing attention with his tall, striking presence. The women around were clearly impressed by Sho's appearance. Although he looked a bit disheveled, Sho quickly apologized for being late and expressed his eagerness to finish the photo shoot so they could enjoy a meal. The crowd cheered for him, clearly admiring him. However, things became tense when Sho bullied Mio, asking her out on a date. Mio, who rejected his advance, was uncomfortable with his insistence. Sho forced the issue, and Yuya stepped in to stop him. Sho brushed off Yuya's concerns, accusing him of being a nuisance. This led to a fight between Sho and Yuya. Sho threw a punch at Yuya, but Yuya used a judo technique to throw Sho to the ground. As the situation unfolded, the admiration of the women shifted towards Yuya, who was now being called cool. Sho, frustrated by the change in attention and the impact on his reputation, questioned what had happened. Hikaru, who had recorded the incident, demanded an apology from Sho, criticizing his behavior and suggesting it could harm his future opportunities. Mio felt relieved, noting that Sho's recent behavior had been troubling, and she had struggled with how to handle it. Hikaru recognized the need to address the situation properly, leaving Yuya puzzled about the unfolding drama. Hikaru suggested they inform the director to officially address the issue. Mio agreed, and Hikaru then turned to Yuya, offering him an exclusive contract with their agency. He praised Yuya's bright demeanor, saying he was well-suited for the industry and promised he would be happy with his income. Yuya was grateful for the opportunity, but humbly declined the contract, feeling he wasn't skilled enough yet. Hikaru respected Yuya's decision and encouraged him to explore different challenges, noting that youth is the perfect time for such endeavors. Hikaru's assistant then gave Yuya a set of clothes as a token of appreciation, explaining that while they would have liked to pay him, it wasn't feasible due to his amateur status. Despite his initial reluctance, Yuya accepted the clothes, acknowledging that compensation is a common practice. Mio expressed hope to work with Yuya again, admiring his unique qualities. Hikaru noted that Yuya could have easily risen to stardom, but respected his choice not to pursue a career in entertainment, stating that forcing someone into something is unappealing. Mio agreed, and they reflected on Yuya's admirable nature. Hikaru playfully commented on Mio's flushed face, which she embarrassedly denied, adding a light-hearted touch to the encounter. Meanwhile, Lexia urgently warned Owen to stay back as they faced a challenging situation with no retreat. She was relieved to see that help had arrived and hesitated before asking if he would marry her, shocking everyone, including Yuya, Owen, and the soldiers. At the model agency, the receptionist at the front desk mentioned they had no details about Yuya. Lady A was curious about who Yuya might be, while Manby guessed he could be a newcomer. The director, impressed by Yuya's talent and charisma, quickly instructed Kurosawa to secure a contract with him before any other agency could. Kurosawa agreed, and the director was determined not to let such a promising newcomer slip through their fingers. In the thick, dark forest, Yuya found himself in a surprising situation. Lexia, the first princess of the kingdom of Arzelia, stood in front of him with a determined look in her eyes. She suddenly declared that she had fallen in love with him at first sight. This shocked Owen, her loyal guard, who immediately reminded her of her royal duties and questioned how she could be so open about her feelings for someone they hardly knew. But Lexia, confident in her feelings, brushed off his concerns, saying that her heart had already decided. Yuya, still trying to understand what was happening, suggested they move to a safer place and offered his home as a refuge. Owen was doubtful, surprised that someone could live in such a dangerous forest. However, Yuya's calm behavior started to reassure them. When they reached Yuya's house, Owen formally introduced himself and revealed their royal identities. Yuya was shocked, realizing he had been casually speaking with a princess. Despite the surprise, they began forming a tentative friendship, though Owen remained cautious, unsure of Yuya's true intentions. Lexia, on the other hand, was excited about the idea of a romance between them, letting her imagination run wild. Yuya, feeling the weight of the situation, tried to stay calm, knowing his life had just become a lot more complicated. Owen then addressed Yuya, asking if he could call him Tenju, but Yuya quickly corrected him, saying that Tenju was his family name and he preferred to be called Yuya. Owen agreed and started calling him Yuyadano, revealing that they had been searching for him. Yuya was surprised and asked why. Owen explained that Lexia had mentioned someone who saved her from danger in the deepest regions, and she wanted to personally thank him. Lexia then stepped forward, apologizing for not being able to thank Yuya earlier because she had fainted at the time. She expressed how her heart had been racing ever since he rescued her, a feeling she had never experienced before. Then, to Yuya's shock, Lexia suddenly asked him to marry her. Yuya, caught off guard, tried to explain how sudden this was. Lexia, noticing his hesitation, saw it as a challenge in their love story, similar to what she had read in romance novels. She suggested they could start as friends instead, and to Yuya's surprise, she really wanted to be his friend. Yuya reluctantly agreed to be friends, and Lexia happily accepted. Owen noted that Lexia's gratitude had been expressed, but there was still one more thing to discuss. Lexia, determined, declared that the next time they met, she would win Yuya's heart. Yuya then remembered that Owen had mentioned the king wanted to thank him personally and had requested Yuya to come to the palace. Yuya felt overwhelmed by the idea of meeting the king, but Owen, understanding his worry, emphasized that it was a royal command. Yuya reluctantly agreed, and Owen discussed the details, asking for 5 days of Yuya's time. Yuya, trying to manage his commitments, asked if the meeting could be delayed, and Owen agreed to wait until the day Yuya chose. Meanwhile, in a different place, a hooded man nervously reported to Rhaegar that he had failed his mission. He stuttered, trying to explain himself. The assassins he sent had managed to separate Lexia from her knights as planned, but they wandered into the darkest regions where dangerous monsters lived. Despite their skills, the assassins were all killed by the creatures. Rhaegar, frustrated, demanded to know why Lexia was still alive. The hooded man admitted he didn't know. Furious, Rhaegar dismissed him with a warning that there would be no second chances. The terrified man quickly left. Alone, Rhaegar vowed that Lexia wouldn't escape his revenge. He was determined to make her pay for what she had done. Back with Yuya, he was getting ready to leave for the academy. As he walked, he noticed people whispering about him, admiring his appearance. Some wondered if he was famous or a model, while others were captivated by his good looks. At the academy, Tsukasa congratulated Yuya on his enrollment but apologized for not having much time to talk. He encouraged Yuya to enjoy his time there. Yuya, feeling determined, promised he would. In the classroom, Sawada introduced Yuya to the class, asking everyone to be kind to him since he was new. The students were welcoming, cheering each other on during activities. Yuya felt good and ready to begin this new part of his life. Yuya watched the game in awe. He had heard from Shingo that Ryu was amazing, but seeing it with his own eyes was even better. Ryu was on a whole different level, and even Keed agreed. The players on Ryu's side were doing well, but those against him were struggling. Keed noticed Yuya watching and asked if he was just waiting around. Yuya explained that he was waiting for his gym clothes to arrive. Realizing Yuya didn't know her name, Keed introduced herself as Keed Kazama and told him to call her by her first name. On the field, the game was intense. A boy tried to challenge Ryu, but quickly saw it was impossible. Ryu grinned, admitting there was no way through his defense. The other boys were left confused, especially when one of them, Akira, tried a special move but kicked the ball in the wrong direction. Things got a bit chaotic when Ki got caught up in the game. Yuya rushed to check on her. Ki assured him she wasn't hurt and could stand. Akira, feeling bad, apologized over and over, promising to serve her forever, which made Kid feel awkward. Ryu, noticing the situation, explained that Akira was a good guy, though a bit strange, and it might take time to get used to him. Akira thanked Yuya for helping them both and introduced himself as Akira Ichinos, claiming to be the young noble of Osei Academy and Blue Lightning, though none of his friends had heard these titles before. In the girls' changing room, they were talking excitedly about how cool Yuya was, amazed by his earlier goal. They admired his skills and agreed that Yuya was truly special. Back in the classroom, the students buzzed with excitement about Yuya. They were amazed by how good he was at sports and how kind he seemed. To them, he was like a perfect prince. One girl excitedly talked about how Yuya had kicked the soccer ball far into the goal and saved another student from getting hit. As they chatted, their thoughts turned to Yuya's personal life. They wondered if he had a girlfriend and what she might be like, but no one knew for sure if he was seeing anyone. Suddenly, the lively atmosphere in the classroom shifted when the students noticed the arrival of the Red Ogres, a notorious gang known for causing trouble. Panic quickly spread as the gang made their presence felt. Kori, trying to maintain her composure, asked what they were doing there. The gang leader, Yuta, responded with a menacing remark, stating that they were there to cause trouble, especially for those who had looked down on them and let their brother into the academy. Yuta seemed to relish the opportunity for revenge, finding the situation thrilling. Kori pleaded with them to stop, reminding them that the police would be there soon. However, Sora, one of the gang members, pointed out that they still had time before the police arrived and suggested they could cause plenty of trouble in the meantime, even hinting at the possibility of abduction. As they plotted, one gang member expressed concern about the police, deciding to grab Kori and leave. Yuta agreed, saying that while he had his own reasons for being there, causing chaos would suffice for now. The gang quickly moved to carry out their plan. As they started moving, a PE teacher and some students tried to stop them, but things were getting out of control. Yuya felt both scared and determined. He couldn't understand why he was so nervous, even though he'd faced danger before. It was strange for him to feel so anxious now, and he struggled with his emotions. Ryu and Shingo were worried and didn't know how to help. Kori noticed Yuya's pale face and offered to take him to the infirmary. But Yuya made a surprising decision. He suddenly left and jumped out of the window. Everyone was shocked when he jumped from the 4th floor and was still fine. In a dramatic twist, Yuya met Araki, who was eager to confront him. Araki accused Yuya of becoming too arrogant and promised to punish him. The gang members then started attacking Yuya, but he dodged all their attacks and ran toward Kori. Just then, the big gang member, Omori, showed up and tried to overpower Yuya. But Yuya grabbed Omori's head, stopped him, and threw him aside. Everyone, including the gang members and students, was stunned as the situation reached its peak. Yuya checked on Kori and was relieved to see she was okay. Kori was also glad that Yuya was safe. The gang members were shocked and worried about their leader. Their leader rode a motorbike and tried to attack Yuya, but Yuya dodged, causing the gang leader to crash into the building, defeating him. Amid the intense battle, the Red Ogres, who had been causing trouble, were finally defeated, and the police arrested them. Their leader's last words were defiant, but the fight was over. As things calmed down, Yuya asked Kori if she was scared. She reassured him that she wasn't because she had complete faith in him. The PE teacher quickly got everyone back to their seats, trying to restore order, and the students were happy. Yuta, still angry, dismissed the Red Ogres as useless, which added tension with the Red Ogres leader. The leader got so angry that he grabbed Yuta's neck and was about to kill him. But Yuya stepped in to protect his brother Yuta and asked if he was okay. Despite the chaos, Yuya spoke from the heart, telling Yuta that even though he had suffered a lot and wasn't ready to forgive everything, he couldn't abandon his family. Yuta, filled with regret, apologized. Later, at Osei Academy, Yuya's friends gathered around him, amazed by his bravery. They were impressed that he survived and were genuinely relieved he was safe. Yuya thanked them all for their support and friendship. Yuya thought that going deeper into the forest would lead him to stronger monsters, but it didn't seem as dangerous as Owen had said. Then Yuya spotted a small black dog fighting a huge monster, the king orc. The little dog was no match and soon got bitten. Yuya, hiding behind a tree, watched as the monster kept hurting the dog. He couldn't take it anymore and rushed to help. Yuya ran towards the monster and quickly defeated it. The small dog was scared of Yuya, but he tried to calm it down. He gave the dog some healing juice, and soon, the dog, tired from the battle, fell asleep. Yuya continued to heal it, saving the little dog's life. The dog started to trust Yuya, recognizing him as its savior. Yuya was relieved. He looked at the dog and wondered why it was alone. "It's not safe for you here. If you want, you can come with me." The small dog seemed to understand, and at that moment, Yuya got a notification. Tame skill acquired. Black Fenrir has been successfully tamed. Yuya was amazed. "So, there's a skill to make monsters your allies?" He checked the name. Black Fenrir. "You're really strong," Yuya said with a smile. "I'll call you Knight, because of your jet black fur." After the fight, Yuya found amazing loot from the king orc. There was the great sword of the pig king, a huge weapon only a king orc could use. He also found the armor of the pig king, too heavy for a human, and a strange item, the hairbrush of the pig king. It could magically restore hair, making it highly valuable to nobles. Yuya laughed at the thought of such a simple thing being priceless. He also found the meat of the pig king, a rare food that could give someone endless energy. Happy with his new pet, Yuya brushed Knight's fur with a magical brush. "Well, at least I got something useful," he joked. Even though he had defeated such a strong monster, his stats hadn't changed. Puzzled, Yuya decided to figure it out later and headed home. Back at his house, Yuya went to school, leaving Knight behind. His friends, Ryu and Keed, were curious about what he was up to. When Yuya mentioned visiting a pet shop, he got excited. She asked about the dog, getting a little too close in her excitement, but quickly apologized. Yuya explained he didn't have any pictures of the dog since he didn't own a smartphone. His friends were shocked. Who didn't have a phone these days? Yuya said he just never needed one, but thought about getting one now. His friends suggested a nearby pet shop that was also an animal hospital, in case Yuya needed help with the dog. Ryu and Shingo were busy with their own plans, but Keed offered to go with him. Yuya agreed, and Keed blushed, wondering if this counted as a date before quickly dismissing the thought. After school, Yuya returned home and apologized to Knight for leaving him alone, ready for their next adventure together. Yuya looked at Knight and felt happy, knowing their lives had changed. He suddenly remembered he bought something special for Knight earlier with Keed's help. Reaching into his bag, Yuya pulled out a small collar and leash. He showed them to Knight, who looked curious. Yuya gently put the collar on Knight and made sure it wasn't too tight. Knight seemed fine, so Yuya smiled, feeling relieved. Now they were ready to go for a walk outside. As they stepped out, a group of girls nearby noticed Yuya and Knight. They whispered excitedly, impressed by how handsome Yuya looked and how adorable Knight was. Yuya felt a little flustered but proud at the same time. While walking, a familiar voice called out to Yuya, and when he turned around, he asked what kind of dog he was. Yuya, feeling a bit shy, admitted he didn't know because he had found Knight and taken him in. Kori thought it was so kind of Yuya and mentioned how lucky Knight was to have him. Just then, another voice called out to Yuya. It was Mio, a famous fashion model. Yuya was a bit nervous seeing her and asked why she was there. Mio explained that she lived nearby and often walked around the area. Kori noticed who Mio was and felt a little starstruck. Yuya introduced them, and Mio greeted Kori and Knight kindly. Soon, more people started noticing Mio and gathering around. Mio smiled and mentioned that they were drawing too much attention. Before leaving, she asked Yuya if he walked in the area often. When he nodded, after Mio left, Kori glanced at Yuya, her expression serious, but the moment quickly passed as they were interrupted by a cry for help. An old woman nearby shouted that her purse had been stolen. Without hesitation, Yuya sent Knight, his loyal companion, to chase after the thief. Knight sprinted off, while Yuya grabbed Kori's hand, guiding her to help the woman. Yuya reached the old woman, who was still shaken but relieved when he handed her the stolen purse. Meanwhile, Knight had cornered the thief. The thief tried to escape, but as Yuya asked Kori to call the police, the thief panicked and charged at her. Yuya quickly stepped in, protecting Kori and fighting off the attacker. After the situation calmed down, Kori looked at Yuya, relieved. The people around were amazed by Yuya's bravery. He simply smiled and said he was glad to help. With everything back to normal, Yuya reminded Kori they still had a long way to go through the forest. As they ventured deeper, Yuya and Knight faced several monsters. Knight easily took care of them, but then they encountered a powerful crystal deer. Yuya hid, studying the creature's movements. When the crystal deer noticed him and attacked, Knight rushed in to help. The deer was strong, and they had to retreat for a moment, waiting for the right time to strike. With a coordinated effort, they attacked from behind and finally defeated the creature. During their adventure, Yuya stumbled upon an unexpected treasure, a portable lavish open-air bath set. It wasn't just any bath. It had everything from hinoki wood to jacuzzis and even an ultrasonic bath. The bath cleaned itself and came with a privacy screen that made it invisible from the outside. Yuya couldn't believe such a luxurious item had dropped as a treasure. Despite his excitement, Yuya knew the forest wasn't the best place to relax. He decided to save it for later, already looking forward to the warm bath once they returned home. Continuing through the forest, Yuya and Knight destroyed a stone wall blocking their path and found a hidden tunnel. Inside, they discovered an old book. When Yuya read it, he was shocked by its contents, realizing there was much more to the forest than he had initially thought.